Dream Vision 7 Radio Network welcomes Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes, heard every Monday at 11 a.m. and 11 p.m. Eastern Time. Using nearly 200 years of abundant and consistent afterlife evidence, quantum physics, consciousness research, and ancient writings, we seek to understand who and what we are, how reality works, the nature of God, and the meaning and purpose of our lives. Join Roberta weekly to better understand our one reality and gain insights into how we can make the most of the glorious eternal beings that we are.
Welcome to Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Joyous conversations about what the afterlife evidence and modern science combine to tell us is true about our one reality. You have nothing to fear. You are eternal and you are perfectly loved. Knowing the truth changes everything. Now, here's Roberta.
Welcome to Seek Reality. I'm Roberta Grimes, and I'm delighted you could be with us today. By now, I think many people know that Mr. Google considers me to be an expert on pets and the afterlife because nearly 4 years ago, I wrote a blog post at robertagrimes.com called Pets in the Afterlife. And therefore, every day I hear from bereaved pet parents, every day. I hear from people who have lost a human loved one, even a child, but their grief somehow doesn't seem quite so raw as it is if you have a beloved pet that's gone. My own theory, and we'll talk with my guest today about it too, is that the problem may be that nearly all of these pet parents who are bereaved seem to be suffering from guilt about one thing or another. They'll say, I should have taken her to the vet sooner. Maybe she didn't want to go to the vet. I couldn't ease his pain. I should have done more. Did he forgive me? Did she know how much I loved her? All these, heartbreaking questions. Maybe it's because animals can't speak to us. We don't have the same kind of closure when we lose them as we do often with a person. So let me just say right before we start, yes, she does forgive you. Yes, he did know you loved him, and he still loves you so much now, even more than before. So having put those anxieties aside, we're going to talk today with someone who really knows. Karen Anderson wrote a terrific book, frankly. It's called The Amazing Afterlife of Animals, Messages and Signs from Our Pets on the Other Side. It came out in 2017, and it's already an Amazon #1 bestseller, and it's won a variety of international book awards. Frankly, it's a very happy book. It's full of the kinds of stories that bereaved pet lovers need now, and what's great about them is they're all true. I mean, not very many people can communicate with animals in the afterlife reliably, but she can do it with animals both in the afterlife and in the daytime while they're still alive. So I'm going to add her book to the bibliography in my fun books as we update it this fall. But I think you ought to hear from Karen. So welcome, Karen. We're so glad you've joined us.
Hi, Roberta. Thank you. I'm excited to be here today.
This is a really sweet person, you have to know. The first time I realized she's really sweet is you send her an email, and you get back an email instantly. It's a responder. It's generic. But it sounds like it comes from a dear friend of yours. I mean, I have to copy your technique somehow. I've never seen anything.
Please do. Please do.
It's what you send to people you don't even know. So this is a story that I think many people need to hear. Yes, our pets are fine in the afterlife, but there's so much more to it than that. So first, can you tell us a little bit about your own history and how you learned that you could do what you can do?
Absolutely. And, for me, as far back as I can remember, as a little kid, I could understand the animals, Roberta, but it was on a level of, I just kind of knew what they wanted or knew what they were thinking. It wasn't near what I do now, but I thought everyone could. I didn't know that it was, I didn't know I was doing something unusual or, what some people might consider weird. I just thought, when you're a little kid, you just think that's the way things are. And so when I started to share information with my family about our family pets and about our departed human loved ones, because I could see spirits too, I saw happy spirits all around me. They were really fun spirits, family members from way back.
Yes.
And when I started to share this with my family, they freaked out, and they're just like, "What?" They didn't know what to do with that, and it scared them. And they really discouraged me. They said I had an overactive imagination. They told me to stop talking to the dog. I mean, it was really
interesting. How old were you when this started to happen?
Probably about 5. I was right in that 5 to 8 range.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand that because I just thought, what do you mean stop? What do you mean? This is normal for me. So I learned very quickly that I needed to cover up and hide my abilities. And, that's really, I think, so destructive. And, my mom has apologized to me now, but back when I was a little kid, that was really heartbreaking because I thought it was kind of cool that I knew this stuff and could talk to the animals. So that's my earliest memory, going back as far as I can.
Can we pause and talk to parents of children? There are 2 important points that Karen has made. If you have a child that is telling you things that seem to be unbelievable, believe that child. Reality is as that child sees it. It doesn't matter what we think about it. Most Americans, frankly, are tainted by the fact that Christianity went so far off the rails so long ago that people think there's something evil about it. There's nothing evil about it. So talk to your children. Encourage them. Don't make them feel there's something wrong with them. I mean, it's wonderful you got past it, but you can destroy a child's life before the age of 6 by making that child believe that he or she is defective. It's terrible to do that. So your mother should have apologized. She did, and I'm glad it didn't hurt you, but it could have.
Yeah, it really messed me up for a while because, you really want the approval of your parents, and at that age, they obviously did not approve. And so I kind of pushed it all down, and I didn't share my experiences with anyone. It actually drove me to be more closely connected to pets and spirits at that time because they understood me and they encouraged me.
Friends.
Right. Yes. So I know, right? It had that reverse effect. So I actually got even closer to the animals and spirits because I felt so comfortable in their presence, and they really loved me for who I was and appreciated the fact that I was talking to them all the time. So that's how it all started. And as I grew up, many years, of course, went by, and it wasn't until I was a police officer that those very same abilities resurfaced again for different reasons, of course, at that time. But that's where it all started to snowball when I was a cop.
So you were a cop, my goodness. So you then, I see you worked on cold cases. Is that how this all came up? You started hearing from people who were cold case victims?
Well, actually, the way that it all happened was a little bit bizarre, and it even shocked me. It was just, I was practicing my animal communication skills at the time anyhow in my personal life, but when I was on duty one time, I was actually on a crime scene, and I was investigating a domestic violence case. And I was interviewing the victim, and she was describing to me what had happened. Her then boyfriend had assaulted her, and my partner was looking for him. He fled on foot. So we were standing out in front of her house, and I was taking her statement when her little kitty came diddy-bopping out of the house and walked right past us. And it went right over to this little outdoor garden shed kind of thing. And, of course, I paid attention to the cat because I love cats. So I'm like, oh, look at the kitty. And she's like, oh, yeah, that's Simon or whoever it was. And so I'm looking at the cat. The cat's looking at me. And all of a sudden, I heard the cat say, inside. And it was sitting right in front of this garden shed. Oh. And I thought, what the heck? Did that cat just say inside? And so I said to this cat, is the guy in there? And the cat confirmed that the guy was in there. And I thought, no way. It had already been searched. That shed had already been checked by my fellow officers. And so I went with it, Roberta. I went with it, and I got out my weapon and I ordered him out with his hands up, and lo and behold, the doors of the shed open, and out popped the guy, right?
Oh, wow.
So that's when my brain was blown away. At that point, I was like, oh my gosh,
Yes.
no way. That animals could tell me things like that on a crime scene. So that's where it all started to snowball. Once I realized that, I'm like, there's nothing they can't tell me. If they can tell me this, they can tell me just about anything, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
that's where it all started to come back.
Oh, I love it. I love it. What a great story. And so after that, did you start to do more readings, or how did you do the cold case work that we talked about? I mean, is that something that you then went to? I don't know the series.
Okay, so then I just practiced my skills at that point because obviously it was so mind-boggling and fascinating, and I couldn't believe it. And I actually didn't start working cold cases until after I left law enforcement and really sharpened my psychic abilities. That's when I started working on cold cases. I actually have several I'm working at the moment. So I work very closely with law enforcement and with the victims' families, and I help find missing persons. I help discover who suspects are in murder cases, and that's something that I sharpened after I left law enforcement. While I was a police officer, I was really just sharpening my skills at the time and practicing and learning all about it and opening myself up, having a spiritual awakening of sorts, because I had closed it and blocked it for so many years.
I know, and that's so tragic. Don't ever do that to your own children. Please, if you're listening and you have a gifted child, this is a glorious gift from God. Don't ever block it. We have a rather eccentric pet who actually owns our house, a cat, an older cat that's bounced around among family members and ended up with us. And I don't understand what goes on in her head. And it's clear to me, though, that she thinks it's her house, and we are too stupid to understand when she wants to go out or what else she needs. So it's kind of humiliating, but that's how we live. But first, I'm going to answer a question that's in your minds. Are pets, do they have they have consciousness? Yes. Are they of the same consciousness as human beings? Well, those we used to think were dead tell us no. They are of a pure consciousness. If they are loved by human beings, they will be there in the afterlife. But, like wild animals, what happens to them? They return to what is called a group consciousness. And just between you and me, there are plains in the afterlife full of bison and all kinds of animals, although, of course, there's no predation. So you have a lot to look forward to in coming to live again where these beautiful animals run free. So let's talk about this communicating you do with living pets, because that was kind of something they picked you for, and you started doing with you. And then they said, okay, let's collaborate on a crime. I think that's so fabulous. Talk about communicating with pets. What do they tell you? What's going on in their little heads?
Well, every single pet that I communicate with is different, and they all have their own unique situation. They all have personalities and characteristics that come through. But
I
will
that.
tell you,
that's wonderful.
Yes, and I will tell you for sure, though, that the one thing I love about them is that they are so, and I'm going to use this word in a different way, they're selfish, not in a bad way. I mean that in a good way. They're about self. They're very much, their favorite topic is themselves, and their next favorite topic is themselves. And then you and I kind of come in somewhere down below after they talk about themselves. So a normal communication session with a cat or a dog or a horse, those are the main ones I work with. I do work with some parrots and some reptiles, but I'm mainly cats, dogs, horses. They will usually share something about what's going on with them, either right at that moment or something recent. I've had animals tell me that there were construction, home remodels going on. I've had them start off by telling me that they hurt somewhere. They'll talk about a pain or some kind of discomfort they're having in their body. They'll actually send me little twinges or sharp little shooting pain feelings wherever it is they're hurting. Yeah, and they'll talk about things